Welcome once again to OSU South Centers Chat. My name is Worley. I'm the director at the South Centers down at Piketon, Ohio. And in today's program, we're really pleased to welcome Sam Custer. And Sam is serving as the interim director of OSU Extension and is the leader for agriculture and natural resource programs for OSU Extension across the state. Sam, welcome very much. Thank you for taking time out to join us for today's program.
Thanks, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to share some of our story.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it. But just before we jump into the story, which obviously, given the time frame that we're in, it all is related to our pandemic situation with the COVID virus. But tell us just a little bit about your background prior to OSU Extension. I know it's a rich background that you bring to OSU Extension, and then we'll move from there.
Thanks, Tom. Yes, I'm very fortunate to have started my high school ag teaching career here in Darke County, Versailles Schools, taught there for 13 years, and had the opportunity to then go down to Miami Valley Career Technology Center and supervise the ag programs. So as a result of my ag teaching years here in Versailles, went down and supervised the ag programs for 3 years at Miami Valley, and then eventually retired from there as the assistant superintendent and director of personnel back in 2012 after a really great 31 years in high school education. And then retired from there in 2012, and then they posted the OSU Extension ANR position in Darke County. It was just a half-time position that summer of 2012, and I thought, wow, what a great opportunity to continue to work in my roots of agriculture. That position quickly moved to a full-time position 2 years later, and then back March 1, Dr. Wilkins asked me to assume this role as Interim Assistant Director for ANR. So right now working 2 jobs, full-time and as ANR educator in Darke County, and then also this Interim Assistant Director position.
Well, we didn't want you getting in trouble on your retirement, so you're fully occupied. I think that's plain to see. And Sam, I know you bring that background to Extension and have applied it very much directly and to a very high standard, and that has brought this opportunity to serve in the role of administrator that you have. And I think that the organization values your leadership in this area at this time. And of course, immediately comes this challenge. Since the 1st of March, it wasn't within a couple of weeks that we entered this phase of telecommuting and distance education, along with social distancing. But Extension has had to pivot mightily. It's not brand new, but it's new to a lot of folks. And I think to this degree, you and I were chatting a little bit earlier about when it goes to 100% working from home and doing everything at a distance. So it is more than anybody has ever been used to, but Extension and the ANR program has adapted, and they have some great things underway. And this came about almost immediately before the end of the month. We were into something called Ag Madness. You might want to share with the folks what Ag Madness is all about and how that came into being.
Yes, Tom. So we were sitting here at home on about the middle of March. I guess it was probably when we would have had the Big Ten basketball tournament. My wife and I were talking on a Saturday night that we usually get into the basketball tournaments pretty strongly in our neighborhood, and there was no basketball. There was nothing on TV that seemed of interest. And when I got into the office there that next week, and we started talking about how we do Extension differently during this stay-at-home opportunity that we have, and it just kind of came to my mind, we need to replace the NCAA tournament with our own tournament of education. So we pulled together very quickly, with 2 days notice, an opportunity for our extension educators and state specialists across the state of Ohio to develop this Ag Madness Tournament of Education. So put on the screen here some of what we're doing. So Julie Strasser and Teresa Funk are part of our team in ANR, and they're overseeing this. I came up with the wild idea, and I asked others to make it happen. So I think they all responded very well. And you can see that from this tournament, we're using the basketball tournament kind of as a model to do this. And each day we have an event taking place at 9, noon, and 3. And you can see at noon today, on the 20th of March, we have a class on how producers can start selling food directly to schools. Mm-hmm. So today's event is all about farm to school. We have full bracket as it available to our viewers across the state of Ohio and across the country. And you can look back on Wednesday the 8th. We had sessions on cover crops. Cover crops are extremely important as we look at water quality and nutrient management. We had a section or a day on hemp, raising industrial hemp, and there's a lot of interest there as ODA has approved that as a crop. We had a section on sheep production and management. So all good topics. So we're going about 6 weeks of offering this programs at 9, noon, and 3. And we also have, playing on the basketball tournament, we have instant classics that you can click on those classics and have highlights from previous tournament days. We also show games of the week. So whatever event was the most watched, we come back and make that available. So when we look at our Tournament of Education in 1 month's time, almost 9,000 hits totally on the website, live views and replay views. We're almost half of the views that we have are replay views, where people are coming back outside of those time frames. Tom, what we've learned very quickly is on a sunny day like today, we don't have the viewership that we do on a rainy day. It just makes sense. Yeah. So we'll find tonight after 8 o'clock or after 9 o'clock, our views will go up on those recorded presentations so that people can come up and watch those at this time.
Right. Well, I know this has been very, very well received, and just really a wide portfolio of webinar trainings with all OSU experts. I'm not sure, maybe I'm overstating all. I don't know whether you have guest speakers from beyond OSU involved in these programs or not, Sam.
They're predominantly OSU employees that are doing the presentations, but occasionally one of those OSU employees will bring in a counterpart in industry that will be on those presentations with them.
Right. Very good. Very good. Well, I know we work with a lot of partner organizations, Ohio Department of Agriculture and Central State University, of course, with their new extension program, but they have a really well-qualified hemp specialist there. And I wouldn't be surprised if Craig wasn't part of the hemp activity.
He sure was. So for the hemp activity, Craig from Central State was on, Brad Bergerford from there at down your way, Tom, and we also had one of our new young educators out of the southwest corner of the state was part of that program. So a wide variety of people, and like we say, topics from specialty crops to sheep production, topics from farm taxes to agribility. So quite an array of topics there.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. Well, I know that lots of educators responded as well, and that's not a set of programs that are dominated by any certain topic or specialization. It's all across the board, as you've aptly described. and works with all types of producers, all kinds of commodities and products, marketing, just many, many aspects that are involved. And the beauty is that this is all recorded and available to come back to. And so it can be used not just this hopefully relatively short period of time, but it can be a reference back into the future as well.
Right. We go many times in life, having the years of experience behind me, we find that during these difficult times, as you said before, we pivot quickly to respond to the needs of the community. And our hope is, as we've pivoted, that we grab a hold of those things that work well and make sense, and we'll carry those forward in the future. I think you'll see some things come out of this ag madness, out of COVID-19, that will change Extension for the years to come, and you'll see us build that library of responses that are available. And when someone calls in maybe to the state office and asks, hey, I need information on hemp, we can direct them to 3 hours of presentations on hemp, or someone that needs information on agribility, and we can direct them right to a video that they can watch there and get more information. So we're excited about it, and I hope that we can grab a hold of those best things and carry them forward.
Well, I certainly see it coming just as you've described it, that we will forever be changed by this set of circumstances. And I think that it, in many ways, we were going to get there anyway. I think this has just pushed us a little bit into the future in terms of using the technology we all have at our fingertips. And that's both from an OSU Extension as a provider of education and information, but on the part of users as well. And I'm sure that folks that have tuned in to some of these Ag Madness programs, that they're gaining a level of comfort with accessing information and our resources in that way that maybe had not really taken advantage of that, because, hey, I can go, 20 miles down the road and see Sam or his compatriots in person, in the flesh. And we all, I think, humans, that's our first priority. That's our most desired. But on the other hand, with time being what it is, and distance, we can overcome those barriers. And as you say, even on a busiest day, there's something in the evening that can be beneficial, and you can access it after the fact, that you didn't have to take a half a day to get a 2-hour training from OSU Extension somewhere. So I certainly agree. The future is going to be and feel different than it did before this came about. Hey, one thing that is related, Sam, I know that a new initiative in our college is the knowledge exchange, and that there's a whole hub information, as you talked about, having this bank of programming coming out of Ag Madness, but they're involved, and I'm sure Ag Natural Resources is contributing to that resource as well. If you wanted to comment anything there.
Yes, the knowledge exchange is a great opportunity for the university to have in place a library where people can easily find research-based information. I think there's a real desire from our community to be able to find facts, that's unbiased research based information. And this knowledge exchange, we're rolling it out, I guess it rolled out last week, and is that place where people can come and find information from the college, all on a single site. The original rollout of information here is around COVID-19 and the responses there. But I think as we move forward here this summer, we will continue to build that all of the college research information into knowledge exchange. We're working very closely with our on-farm research and the results of our eFields work over the past 3 years that is going into the knowledge exchange. So watch for that information as we move through that whole building of that bank of information there at the knowledge exchange.
Certainly. Thanks for those comments. I think that is meant to be, as you have emphasized, and we continue to emphasize throughout Extension, unbiased, research-based information, and that the knowledge exchange is built on that very premise and concept that you can truly go there and hopefully get the facts. And
Right.
not that our extension programs don't do that, but again, kind of having the repository all in one place, and with some assurance that it comes from sources that are well respected and known both inside OSU, as well as links to other information as well. So lots more opportunity for that coming in the future as well. Hey, Sam, a related activity of our OSU Extension specialist is the Farm Office Live, and that has come about in this environment as well. And I hope you can share a little bit about what Farm Office Live is all about.
Right. So Farm Office Live is, we have a group at the university that have a website. It's called Farm Office. That's Peggy Hall. She's Ag Law. Barry Ward, who is, everybody knows Barry for his ag budgets and farm tax school. Ben Brown, who works out of AEDE, and Ben is our farm management person there in the department. And then Diane Shoemaker, who's a field specialist that specializes in dairy production and also does our farm business planning analysis. So they were excited to see the things that were going on with Ag Madness, and they decided to put together a program, an evening program, to complement what we were doing with Ag Madness. So tonight will be their third session. So you can be part of that event at 8 o'clock in the evenings. They usually try to do 15 to 20 minutes of formal presentation and open up for questions and answers. But when you think about that group of people, just a group with Ben Brown and Barry and Diane and Peggy, that so much knowledge and information. I know their first session, they may have talked maybe a little bit longer than their 20 minutes, maybe 45, and had great questions come out of that as we try to figure out this CARES Act and how that will play into agriculture. They took a look at the Payroll Protection Act and how that would be used in an agriculture arena. We continue to look at all those factors and look at the economy, look at the commodity futures prices and where they're at, and give guidance to people there. And I think they had over 100 people on last Monday night that participated in that. So just another great event where we see that we're doing things differently, and we'll continue these once we come out of this COVID-19 emergency declaration.
Right. Well, I think the idea that you can go there with specific questions and on a live interactive basis, in other words, ask the question and get a response all at the same time. Not that you can't do that on the others, but this is really structured and so that it's driven by the questions that are top of mind and not some pre-planned presentation, and then you have 5 minutes for the audience questions. So I think it's a great format, and look forward to that continuing, and certainly in the areas of business management, law, tax, and these new programs. We have a team at South Centers that works with small businesses, and it's been a lot of change from day to day as these programs have been rolled out due to the new legislation that you mentioned, and especially the small business loan provisions, and then the payroll protection plan. There's just been multitudes of questions, and the kind of the structure changed. The rules of the game, like anything that's getting created in a very short time frame, at that level, and the volume of money involved certainly changed. But more to come on that. But it's great that agriculture, given the right parameters, is eligible to participate in those programs. where it might not have been possible under prior activities. We noted from our Center for Cooperatives that they are indeed eligible for these various programs as well, and lots of information that has to be digested and clarified in order to make sure we're navigating in the proper manner to take advantage of those. So another example. I think we want to turn, and we're getting down less than 10 minutes, Sam, remaining, but we've got a couple more topics we wanted to turn to, and one of them is the on-farm research that Extension does, and that covers a lot of different areas, but one thing where you're from, over in Darke County and the western side, and Grand Lake St. Mary's, and then up further north to the water quality issues. But you might want to touch on just on-farm research that Extension is involved with, and then specifically related to the water H2O process.
Yes, so when we were sent home from the university and from our extension offices around the county in an effort to protect the people that we serve, there was a time period where all research outside of COVID-19 immediate research was put on hold. And it was possible with the declaration of the governor to qualify agriculture as essential, that we have been able to secure a limited number of exemptions so that we can continue to do our research in the areas of water quality, nutrient management, and food production. So we're very fortunate to have those exemptions in place as we continue to look at water quality and how we might be part of the answers and solutions in improving the water quality, not only in Lake Erie, but also the Ohio River. So we have educators and state specialists across the state and our field specialists that are identifying protocols so that we can take a look at those 10 best management practices that you saw roll out as part of the H2 Ohio program. H2 Ohio is in place there in those Northwest counties, 14 counties for this year, and they are being incentivized, the growers in those areas, to implement those best management practices that we feel will make the biggest difference the quickest. So as we look at that, and then there's some budgetary concerns and issues that are being looked at now, but I know the governor is trying to protect those funds that are in place there for the northwestern part of the state to implement H2 Ohio. And our extension educators, and we have 6 new water quality specialists up there in that northwest corner of the state that are going to be working to not only identify those best management practices that seem to improve our water quality issues, but they're also looking at the economics of those with the incentive, with increased yield opportunities, and with the ability to reduce inputs to be able to show the farmers the benefits of adopting some of these best management practices. So that research continues and will continue across the northwest part of the state and the rest of the state of Ohio.
Right, right. Well, it's critical, and that's a word that we heard used and hear used many, many times. And of course, I think that much of the water quality work is long-term in nature, but at the same time, I think you use the phrase, we can't afford to miss a year's worth of work. And that's the nature of the work that we do in agriculture. It is seasonal, and you get a growing season, and that's very important as we're trying to work on these long-term problems, that we are consistent and capturing data each and every growing season for corn, soybeans, the typical crops that are most heavily planted in our part of the state on the western side. And so it's great to know that that has been recognized both at the government level as well as at the university level, that this work is critical. And so I appreciate all those comments. Another thing that I think it's been a long time, and that really agriculture, food production, food security, food availability is mentioned much in the news, but we know that is different now, and that this situation with the virus, the pandemic, has brought about disruptions in our whole food system in terms of production, processing, marketing, logistics. All you have to do is go to the grocery store to try to get your staple needs taken care of, and you realize this. And I think this is it's a revelation to many, many people, especially in urban areas, that why doesn't the supermarket shelves, why aren't they stocked as normal? And we're finding out that, well, there's a lot of machinery behind that to accomplish that. And we're experiencing some of the impacts. So I don't know, you have a couple comments on maybe on the meat processing side with you've even got a slide for us. So please go ahead.
So Tom, we take a look at that whole mechanism of our supply chain, food supply chain. We go back to January 21st, and we'll use that as a base on the future prices of our commodities. And we go out here to last Tuesday, I think it was. It's the latest I have on the slide, or actually goes through Thursday, I believe. And you can see on our livestock section of the entity, our futures prices for hogs were off 42%, milk 30 plus, cattle 30 plus percent there. And we see that, and there are concerns. Well, there was in social media, we had a lot of opportunities for people to see the need for dairy farmers to dispose of milk because there wasn't room in our processing facilities. They were backed up because we went from processing milk to go to schools in half-pint boxes or bottles, and it's very difficult in those processing facilities to change them quickly. In our hogs and cattle, last week, our major processing plants began to see COVID-19 outbreaks in their plants, and they had a need to shut those plants down. So we have fat hogs and fat cattle that are sitting in on farms out here and aren't able to be processed and be harvested. So we have those bottlenecks, and eventually you'll see probably a shortage of meat in some of these counters, especially those bulk hamburger, sausage, those kind of meats. I think if you go in the cooler today, there'll be a lot of steak probably that is there. We have to remember that a lot of the meat has been sold through restaurants in the past. Maybe 25% of those top cuts for swine and beef have been sold through the restaurant. We don't have that now, so we can almost buy steaks as cheap as we can as a hamburger in some of these grocery store counters. So quite the change there. As we look at this leads to concerns with farm solvency. Our debt to asset ratios are weakening. We just see some real tough economic times to come in agriculture.
Sam, I appreciate those comments of the current conditions in agriculture, which weren't rosy before this happened. You know, the farm economy has been in a down mode for the last 3-4 years at least, and then this on top of that, as you say, it's going to impact farmers' ability. And we hope that the measures that are being taken will be successful. But appreciate that. Sam, we're just have exhausted our time too quickly. I know there's lots more we could talk about today, but I think we're going to have to leave it right here. We're getting cues to get it all wrapped up. So thank you once again for joining me in the South Centers chat.